I think you have to design a company that can fly high and fast right out of the gate. You have to be able to build a company that can be very aerodynamic. Don't overcomplicate it. Everything breaks and changes as you scale. So you need something that's really easy to operate on. And hopefully it's something that's so simple that you really don't have to iterate that much. You can just kind of keep shifting and massaging it. So I think that was a really key point.
Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Roisentul.
Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm Roisentul, your host, and super excited to interview Aaron Nosbisch, the founder and CEO of BRÄZ, the fastest growing cannabis beverage in the market. Hey, Aaron, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Brian, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I'm stoked to be here. And yeah, man, it's been a wild journey. It might be the fastest growing beverage in the world. I don't know the exact data out there to compare it, but it's up there. It's been, we did 18.9x growth from 23 to 24. So it's up there for sure. We need more time.
Either way, it's amazing. It's a huge achievement, and I have a lot of questions on that. But before going there, I would love for you to, I know you. I know you because I've been following you on LinkedIn. Actually, I started following Nick Shackelford a long time ago, and through him, I saw your post and BRÄZ, and he said, hey, this guy is cool, and what he's building is cool. So I started following you, and man, the content you put out there is just amazing, and what you're building is amazing as well.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, first off, congrats. And second, for those in the audience who don't know who you are, could you please introduce yourself and tell them more about BRÄZ?
Absolutely. First off, I really appreciate that. So I'm Aaron Nosbisch. I'm the CEO and founder of BRÄZ. BRÄZ is a microdosed cannabis and mushroom infused social tonic. It uses a low dose of THC, CBD, and lion's mane functional mushroom in order to create a happy, euphoric, uplifting effect that you feel quickly. It's subtle, it's stackable, it's short lasting. It's very comparable to alcohol, which makes it a great alternative for alcohol. And we launched it 21 months ago, and it just blew up. Our first year we did like $1 million in revenue, and our second 28 million. And we're going as far and fast as we can for this year. And we sold over 8 million cans, and and those are all exciting numbers, but really we're on a mission to reduce human suffering and maximize human potential and make the world a better place through a better beverage.
There's a TED talk that I love by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. So I will do the same and ask you, why do you think BRÄZ is the fastest growing cannabis or the fastest growing beverage in the market?
I was talking to someone about this the other day. I was like, what was the key? I think there's kind of three things, it's like, and I think this is the key to success in any category and especially beverage, but it was a combination of a really good value proposition, a really good product, like this is something that we all kind of want, like whatever part of me that wanted to build this for myself was the same part of you that might want this product or anyone. And so a really great product that's novel and that addresses a real problem. So we think we've done that with this, low dose, subtle, stackable alcohol alternative that uses, botanicals and herbs in order to create that happy, uplifted experience. So a great product, a great value proposition, a great skill set. Myself, I've been in e-commerce and marketing for the last 15 plus years. And so I have a deep knowledge of this landscape. And then my partners are really smart in this space as well. Nick Shackelford's probably the most iconic in the D2C space today, and all my partners. Travis is an amazing formulator. We have a really, Brandon on our team is head of paid acquisition, has led some of the best paid teams in the e-commerce ecosystem for the last 5-10 years. And so we have a team of all-stars. So an amazing product with a unique value prop, really skilled, a team that plays to their hand, that plays to their strength, and then smart timing. It's like you can have a great product and you can have a great team, but if it's not really the right time and culture, it doesn't necessarily work. And, I think we timed BRÄZ really well with the kind of rising of the conscious, healthy mindset, as well as the decline in alcohol consumption due to the awareness of some of the negative impacts that it can create.
Everyone seems to love your product, and of course, it's clear due to the exponential growth of the brand. How many times did you iterate the first product? How long did it take until you said it's perfect?
Totally. We did it really quickly, to be honest. At first, so Lucid was my other company, which is the largest cannabis social advertising firm in the space. And we've been doing that for since 2018. So quite a while. And so I saw this happening for a while, and I was very aware of like which products were coming out, which ones were working, what I had affinity towards. So I knew what I wanted for a long time in that regard. But I officially started hunting for the right people to help me make it in January. Found them in February, went through tons of iterations between February and mid-April, probably, I don't know, 50 different iterations, something like this, and then launched it on 420. So that was only like 3 months from like conceive, like, I've been in the space, in the cannabis space for, 6 years before that, but it was about 3 months from like idea to launch, and 3.5, 4 months from idea to launch. That's radically fast. It's probably the fastest I've ever done anything. We were very careful to make sure that we had all of our safety studies done. We have a PhD in pharmacology, who is our chief scientific officer, Justin Campbell, to back all that, and did all of our proper lab testing. But it was quick. It was very quick. And the initial batches were very bitter. The thing about cannabinoids is they have a very bitter taste, and when you emulsify them, meaning you make the particles smaller, they absorb more intimately, which means that you taste more of it. So the first batch of BRÄZ is actually, this is the original can. It's pretty bitter. It's sweet, but it has a pretty significant bite. The new ones we've iterated with literally every batch of BRÄZ that we make. We try to make it just a little bit better. And today I think we really have something truly novel, really refreshing, sweet and light and uplifting, and a little bit of a bite, but nothing too offensive.
And do you do that by incorporating customer feedback, or how do you iterate the products currently?
Yeah, primarily customer feedback, and kind of intuition of kind of, like of what we want. There's a quote I like, they call it, I think it's the marketer's dilemma. It's that like, you're not your target market. And I always add like one like addition to that, unless you are, in which case we are. Like, and that's the thing, it's like, you're not your target market unless you are. I am the target market. Like, like we built this drink for myself. We built this drink for Travis, built this drink for Nick. Like, none of us drink, like we wanted an alternative that felt nice and that was pleasant and uplifting. It's like, I'm a big fan of like you definitely need that constant feedback loop of what people are telling you and your team is telling you, but also really listening to yourself intuitively of like, where is the product showing you it wants to go, and are you listening to that?
Yeah, 100%. So for those listening to this, or why not watching it, Aaron is very active on LinkedIn, and he builds in public, which is not super common for founders to do these days. Some do, but they don't show the good, the bad, and the ugly. They show the wins. And Aaron shows the behind the scenes, the real behind the scenes, or at least we see a lot more than the wins only. So what made you decide to build in public in the first place?
Absolutely. Well, honestly, it was the thing I always wished other people did. Whenever I was like really starting in e-commerce and building my career, I always like wondered how people were doing what they were doing, and what was the behind the scenes story going on. And so it was kind of threefold. That was one. Is that I always wanted that, and no one was ever doing it, and so I thought we should just do it. Two was I thought like I knew how radical of an idea that was, and how powerful and successful that not just BRÄZ but the entire category could be if we could get to escape velocity, if we could grow it fast enough. And I knew that, and I have a deep and firm belief that like, it's not if it will be this massive category. So now that I know that it will be, it'd be cool to get there and talk about it then, but I thought it'd be cooler to talk about it now through that process and share that. And if I was doing that, maybe that feedback would help others in the category learn so that they could grow their brands in this new category at the same time. And that a rising tide would raise all ships, per se, like we'd all grow together. That was the second point. The third is like, I have like a fundamental disbelief in competition. I think competition is an old idea that I don't think really needs to apply to modern business. I think competition's for losers is a way I like to say that. It's like, the thing is, if you're competing, you're always kind of following someone. You're like, oh, they're doing that, and I have to do this in response to that. Versus like leading. When you lead, you might be aware of your surroundings, but you're crafting new directions. You're opening up new opportunity. And so my whole focus is seeing my own North Star and focusing on what that is and the vision that I see and the things that I think will add value to the world, and going to create that. And like, sure, some people might try to compete with me in my brand, but like, we have no interest in competing for them. In fact, I have every interest in supporting their growth and success as much as I possibly can. And I think that that's a generative thing for all.
Do you think that because there are different takes on what you just said. Probably all of or many of them are right because they probably keep in mind different stuff. When we talk about competition, it could be taken as, looking at what the other is doing in a bad way or in a good way. And it could be just, surviving or try to operate under the same market, or industry. So in this case, it is said that everyone gets together to create the pie, but then they fight to divide it and get the biggest piece, right? So do you think that happens in this space because you're still building the pie or creating the pie in the industry?
I think that's a great point, which is something that I tell people is like, regardless of their philosophy on competition, is we're so early in this category that like we can compete down the line if we decide that that's necessary. But like right now, we all just need to keep growing the total addressable market.
Right.
But so yes, I think that is true. But I would still kind of reinforce what I said earlier, which is say like, it's like, at what point does the pie end? The pie ends at the point that innovators stop innovating. If innovators keep innovating, then the total addressable market continues to expand in new and different angles, and it gets wider and it gets more diverse. And this is what you see in all categories. And so, it's like, it's a fundamental question of like, do we as modern entrepreneurs operate from a abundance or scarcity mindset? If it's scarcity, then there's only so much pie and I get a slice and you get a slice. If it's abundance, like, man, there's as much pie as we want. Let's go make some more.
I like that. So talking about your journey now, creating a product people love is hard. Scaling it to the moon is something very few can achieve, right? So what was the first time you said, this is going to be a success?
I knew it immediately, to be honest. I had a CBD brand at 2018, right after the Farm Bill passed, that made this type of product legal in the first place. And then I had an agency that focused on advertising and acquiring customers for 6 years after that. I just supported all the top brands. And then when I saw the CBD movement go up and fall, the DA movement hop, and then the Delta 9 movement really take off, I knew that this was going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread, per se. It's this is essentially federally legal THC products in low dose varieties and a medium that is approachable and acceptable by most. And so when I saw that and I saw other products in the category, it was clear to me that this was the fundamental future of mainstream consumption. And this was like before even launching. I remember calling my father and I was like, Dad, like nothing will ever be the same once I do this. Like we're going to get this started. I have an amazing team. I know exactly what to do. Like I see this clear as day. And so, and a quote I really like about this is, the future is obvious, but unexpected. What BRÄZ is doing and the rest of the category is doing is the obvious yet unexpected future of social consumption. And so I saw it very early on, and I still see it. It's cool because I told my dad all that before any of this started. And so then now that BRÄZ has taken off and the category's taken off, it's like, oh man, look, I told you just a couple of years ago, and so that's been a fun thing.
That's amazing. So this January was the second anniversary of the company, right?
Actually, we're not even 2 years old yet. We started in January, and we started in 4/20, which is the cannabis holiday, funny enough, 4/20/23. So we're about 22 months old now. So we'll be 2 years old on 4/20. Not even 2 years yet.
Okay, so the growth is outstanding, of course. And even though things went really, really fast, if we stop for a minute and think about the top lessons you learned along the way for everyone, listening to these and going through the same thing or wanting to do something similar to what you're doing, not necessarily, industry-wise, but building a business that grows exponentially. So what were those, lessons learned along the way?
I think you have to design a company that can fly high and fast right out of the gate. You have to be able to build a company that can be very aerodynamic, which means you have to have a really strong unit economics. You need to have a high average order value. You need to be subscription first right out of the gate, especially if we're talking about direct to consumer. Subscription first right out of the gate. You need to be fully focused on designing a website that's conversion friendly and optimized, and that can handle a lot of traffic and can keep iterating clearly and effectively. So I think starting would be I knew that when I was designing BRÄZ from the get-go, that I was building a product and a web experience that would be very nimble and scalable. And that doesn't mean we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, as it grew, but it was built to fly and to fly fast and to fly high. And so, that goes from everything from the cost of it to what the web experience looks like to, we only have one flavor. So that way it's all a fluid production line, to the partners that we selected, to team members that we selected, to all of it. So I think like really being really intentional to make something very simple and clear, an aerodynamic, like don't overcomplicate it. It's because like as you grow, everything breaks and changes as you scale. So you need something that's really easy to operate on, and it's really easy to, and hopefully it's something that's so simple that you really don't have to iterate that much. You can just kind of keep shifting and massaging it. So I think that was a really key point. The other is like play to your skill sets. Like, my team is really good at digital advertising and creative, and so like and branding. So like we did really good branding, we did really good creative, we really did good advertising, and then really good retention. And so like we played to our strengths, and that's what allowed us to get outsized returns. If your strengths aren't direct to consumer, maybe that's not the thing you should be focusing on. But maybe if your strengths are you're really great at email, or you're really great at retail, or you're really great at PR or organic social, whatever it is that you're really great at, focus on that. Like create a baseline of like acceptable performance in the key areas, which I think are like email and advertising and customer service and a good product. But if you're really good at organic social, focus on that. In Google, they call this the upside down T strategy. And the idea is that if you focus on creating a baseline level of skill sets across multiple things, but then you have one area that's really exceptional, you can get outsized returns from. So that was, for us, that was advertising, creative, branding, I think was the real outsized and an amazing product.
So that's very interesting. And you were mentioning your team. So what was the size of your team when you started out back then in 2023, and what does it look like now?
It was pretty small when we started. It was me and my partners. So me and Travis and Nick and Oven and Preston. That was kind of like the core group when we started. My wife, Sky, and then Dan. And then so it was like 4 to 6 people out of the gate. And that expanded quickly to 10. And then that 10 got us for quite a while in Corbin. And then now we're about 30 people. Wow. The way I think about, it's 25, 30 people. And we brought on Brian Dewey, who leads our revenue department, does an exceptional job at doing that. And so the whole thing with how I build the team is I'm a big believer in autonomous action. I want to bring on experts who can lead us and teach us the best way to do things, that don't need guidance directly on how to do things. They just need space to succeed. And so, and a great product to do so with. And so we organize our teams right now around paid acquisition, around creative, around retail, around retention, and around customer service, primarily in operations. And then we have a few different rungs from there. Some departments like retail are kind of like linear scaling, where it's like you have to onboard new distribution centers at different states, and then new retail market managers that allow you to keep building and growing, which is different than direct to consumer, where, if you can have a machine that can facilitate the scale on the production and the fulfillment and the advertising and acquisition, then you don't really need a ton of people to do it. You just need a good machine for it. So it's been interesting to kind of like find the balance. I would say that we are entering into a era where more and more can be done with less people, whether it's using AI, but I don't mean so much AI and all these fancy, crazy, just like basic ways, like use it to process your mind, use it to process your ideas, like ask the dumb questions, and like get clarity for yourself, figure out how to communicate better with your teams. Like I use it. That's how I use it personally. And I find that really adds a lot of value to my life. And I try to surround myself with a lot of really strong people who have ownership mentalities and who are focused on vibrating at a solution frequency versus a problem frequency. They're kind of different energies.
Yeah,
so
I think reading your review of I think it's Diary of a CEO podcast by Stephen BRÄZ. He was interviewing these two people, Mr. Beast and Alex Hormozi, and they both talked about A players, and how they love working with other A players. And probably if they work with B or C players, they will probably not like the job and turn into B players as well, because they don't want to be surrounded by B players. So what you're saying mainly, if I got it right, is that you hired A players and you love working with them, and they love working within themselves, right?
Absolutely. And, it's a challenging dynamic, that A player, B player, C player thing. I like how you said that. It's like, A's hire A's is a good way to say that. A's hire A's and B's hire C's and D's is another way I've heard that. It's like you have to surround yourself with those A players at all times, and you have to iterate your players as well. And some people should be with you at certain times and not at other times. And, my focus has always been what is right for that person joining the team. And if that's being here now with BRÄZ, then I want to support them as best as possible. And if ever that for them is somewhere else, then I want to support them in that as best as possible. And, I think having those kind of like earnest and honest conversations with people and trying to keep it real and not so corporate, I think helps, but I'm still kind of figuring it out myself.
Those 30 people or so that you have working for you right now, what's the distribution like between marketing, retail, and other areas, more or less?
So I think there's probably 15 in retail, 10 to 15 in retail. And then there's probably another 10 creative and another 5 to 7 in operations and customers. I'm sorry, when I say creative marketing, acquisition, retention, and then another 5 to 7 in ops and CS, I would say.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's like how the creative team, we have a creative strategist, we have an integrated marketing manager, we have our creative director, we have graphic designers, motion designers, 3D animators. So that's like 7 people, give or take there. And then the paid acquisition, we have a head of paid acquisition, our media buyer, 2 media buyers, our Google lead gen, and there's like 4 there. So that's like 11. And then retention has a designer, coordinator. Nick heads over retention, and that's all subscription as well. So yeah, that's kind of how that looks. Retail is going to be the largest team though, pretty soon. Like it just requires the most amount of people to keep stocking product and getting the velocity, as well as an experienced team.
I was going to ask you about that because I unless I got it wrong, retail only represents around 10% of your business currently?
Yeah, although it's scaling really dramatically. So it's scaled like 20% month over month for the last year.
Wow.
We started retail a year late. So like all the rest of the brands started with retail in the hemp-derived THC category, where we started 1 year late on that. So we had this big growth in direct to consumer, and our direct to consumer continues to grow, and our retail continues to grow. So it's hard to get that allocation to where I want it to, right, which is probably closer to like a 60-40 or 50-50. I ultimately believe retail will be the driving force of revenue for our product and for the category. We'll have to get there, but I think that's ultimately where it's going to go. In the meantime, D2C is a very key and important vehicle because it allows us to have a much broader and fully expansive total addressable market while the retail infrastructure for these products gets developed.
Have you already planned a different strategy for retail? I had the pleasure of interviewing a few years ago, I think it was 2022, Ronak Shah, founder of Opti. And it was a very interesting conversation. Back then they were doing 30 million. Now they are doing way more, I think.
Yeah,
and,
great brand.
Yeah, and he was recently saying, on a LinkedIn post, I believe it was, that they started retail, way later than, DTC as well. And when they started, going, nationwide with Walmart, for example, I think it was, products were not performing. And as far as I recall, he said that Walmart told them that they were the worst product, and he was in public as well. So it was tough for him, of course, to share that, right?
Yeah.
But it was like, we need to do something different. So initially they said, of course they turned things around. And one of the lessons he shared was that they thought that that retail was an extension of DTC, right? And now they treat those channels very differently. As far as I remember, they said that, in DTC, they try to, it's like the lab, he said, where they test products, launch crazy stuff and see how people react. And on retail, they have only a few winning products they know will work there, not too risky, So that's, their experience, right? But I remember that they were talking about, how they got it wrong since they got go with retail and how they learned and iterated, and now they are thriving, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a similar thing, I think, to a degree. I mean, like, for us, it's like people, I think, want to buy beverage in retail primarily. Like, they're willing to buy beverage online, but they much would prefer to buy it in store. Like, I can name 1 or 2 beverages that I order online personally. And so I think the fact that we sell online is kind of like it's a good way for us to grow, and it's been a great way for us to, and I think it will continue to be a large revenue channel for us. But ultimately, I think people want to buy our product primarily in retail. My expectation is that this online demand and mind share that we've been able to generate, and the customer that we've been able to generate online is going to translate really well over to the retail vertical. And that's what we're seeing so far. You know, when we got rolled out in Texas Total Wine to all their stores and Florida Total Wine to all their stores, we send one email to Texas saying that we're available at all the stores to all of our customers, and we sell out in a day. And same thing in Florida. And so we're finding that there's a really kind of clear connection between the online and the offline sales. I think that some of that's specific to our category being a beverage, but my hope is that we continue to use that demand that we're generating online to drive retail velocity so we can scale exponentially.
Yeah, I mean, after all, you cannot control foot traffic, right? Or you cannot control it as much as you can control how many visits you get to your website through, increasing the budget on ads or any other strategy.
Absolutely. Well, if we can create the flywheel there going to the next one, almost like almost like a loop into it. Yeah.
So I'm curious, just real quickly on these, I wanted to ask you, which metrics are you obsessed with and how did it change as you grew? Until the first million and then 10 million and now over $20 million.
Great question. Average order value, I'm pretty obsessed with. Like, I'm a big believer in strong average order values. There's a lot of different beliefs on there. I think there's a lot of different funnels and flows and offers that you can optimize around. But personally, I'm a believer that if we can drive high average order values and we can spend more on ads, we can invest in other opportunities, that every shipment becomes net worth more to us. The LTV increases that. I've been really focused on LTV at 6 months and 12 months, focused on average order value. I've been focused on MER, media efficiency rates, so total dollars spent to total dollars returned, AMER, total dollars spent versus total dollars returned from new customers, and number of subscribers, attrition rate. Yes, these are kind of like the key things I think about. Number of, and then, monthly revenue, top line for both, and then net profit. There's a lot of them, but I mean, kind of in that order. Gross margin and is also the other one that I'm paying close attention to. And like, they all kind of work in sequence, like if I was to pull out any of those, it's like the important ones, AOV, MER, AOV and MER, like, and AMER, those can make a whole business. It's like, if you have a strong AOV, there's a quote by Ryan Deiss, who's an OG in digital marketing. He used to run digitalmarketer.com, and he always used to say, it's like, he who can pay the most per customer wins. And it's not like the idea is that you want to pay a lot per customer, but you want to have the ability to pay a lot per customer, and strong AOV and LTV facilitate that.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's race to the bottom, margin
exactly.
Shrinking. It's the rest of it. Yeah. So, I don't know how you guys do it. I'm going to ask in a minute, but, I'll be going back to this company. They, run recently published, I think it was a few months ago, that they have like a WhatsApp group with the leadership team, and they send daily WhatsApp P&L. So it's it contains like the main KPIs, from different people, some automated and some, the CFO is there, or some people, working for CFO is, typing the metrics right there so they can see whether they are losing or winning in the daily basis. And I ask him, if it doesn't become noise over time, because if you receive that the first day is amazing, the second day is amazing, the third day you say, I'm going to archive this because I don't want to see this ever again. But do you have a daily track on this, or do you do a weekly, monthly?
We do a weekly leadership meeting where we have a KPI document that we review all together, and then we go department by department and kind of cover core KPIs for each of those departments. But to your point, like, if you're not like really paying attention to it or like pointing out the things, and like, it's easy to like, have it kind of wash over and kind of, get numb to it a little bit. So we have that. We also do a daily scaling thread in Slack. So every day we post a thread with our target revenue, our target MER, our target AMER, and then we kind of like are tracking that together to push that up into scale. So that's been very helpful on that front. So yeah, I think we could do it better. I think that, I think you do it better, and I think it's a less is more thing. It's like, if you can really identify those 20% of the KPIs that are really making all the difference, and integrate people to like in being able to see where they can clearly push in to get something to pop out, that would affect those KPIs in a positive way, and really like examine that and highlight that and support everyone's awareness of what is actually impacting those KPIs so that they can influence them positively. I feel like that's where the magic happens.
I have, of course, 1,000 questions for you, but I'll ask you only a few more, if you don't mind.
Of course.
One is like, thanks to, the fact that you build in public, I get to see that you spend more or less money on 8 to 9 ad channels, and I'm curious because everyone is talking about, channel diversification because it's like you live in a rented land, if what happens with TikTok, happens to Meta or whatever,
Totally.
or the algorithm changes, whatever, So you need to, probably diversify, but you're actually doing that. Like, I don't recall seeing this in the past, at least with these numbers, So which ones, app lobbying is, everyone is talking about app lobbying and you're spending a lot of money and doubling down on app lobbying, or it looks like it's almost matching your Google Ads budget, right? At least it did in January. So why is that? And do you see that trend will continue, or do you think that it was just a one-off and you'll keep probably Meta and Google Ads at the top spenders?
So Meta started for, I think when you're initially starting a brand, like the focus should be on identifying a channel that you can really succeed at and scale up. And then as you've kind of scaled that one up and it's iterating, it's continuing to progress, can you stack more in addition? So for us, that was Meta and then Google. And then actually after that, it was TikTok Shop, and the thing is like, different channels are going to perform and stop performing as well, whether it's due to sustainability complications, creative complications, or just like general trends within the market. So like you want to focus initially so that way you can get the highest return and not waste any money from just a single channel or a couple channels. For most people, that should be Meta out of the gate. And then you want to start stacking, but sometimes they'll play different roles. So like, TikTok really helps shoot us up and new customers, but then it kind of fell off for us, but it gave us a lot of important revenue that we needed and important customers that we needed at an important time. And so that was super helpful. And then, over time we opened up X, which we spent a lot of money on for a while. We opened up Snapchat that we spent a lot of money on for a while. Both of those were scaling pretty high and they kind of fell off. Snapchat's now back again and doing pretty well for us again. AppLovin is the one that's been really scaling for us. That was kind of not expected. They kind of came out of nowhere and started offering digital advertising on, kind of like app games that people play kind of when they're on the airplane and stuff. And it does really well for us. It's a new channel. And I think our product type specifically, it's a fun, happy, enjoyable product. It's a fun-seeking product. So if people are playing these games seeking fun, I think our product has some relevance there. I think we found some good creatives, and they allow us to use the language we want to use without much compliance challenges, which is very helpful as well. So we work very closely with their team in order to scale up on that platform. And I think it's a challenging platform. You got to find what creative works for you, but I think it can be very effective. And I mean, it's spending more than Meta is for us at the moment on a day-by-day basis, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't think it's going to persist. I think it's going to shift back and forth. But right now, we're spending more on AppLovin than Meta. Yeah.
The question I think many people have in the industry, the advertising space, the commerce space as well, was whether AppLovin could scale, not only, get you a good return, but scale. And in this case, you're scaling it month over month almost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're finding it's breaking around 20K a day right now. And so it starts to not work as well there. We're trying to get that to 50K. We're actually literally working with their engineering teams to see if we can help discover new ways. And it's like there's almost kind of tiers that your creative resonate with a mainstream audience. So the creatives that we have resonated to this tier. So there's part of it is we got to kind of make and massage new creative that will resonate with a broader and wider tier of people. And and I think that's going to be true of any app. I think AppLovin is just a little bit more of a raw version of a more sophisticated platform like Meta. And so it's kind of interesting to see it play out. But yeah, we've got it 20K a day. I think we'll get it to 50K a day in the next 3 months. We're going to try and do our best to do it. We have a really smart team with Brandon Fink leading the way over there. So I think he'll figure it out.
Amazing. So, one question I like asking every guest before they leave is whether they have a book they love and they want to share with the audience. We put together a list of books every single year. And if it's not a book, it could be a person, someone you admire, or someone who helped you along the way, a mentor, a boss, a business partner, why not? So do you have, it could be either a book or a person, or it could be both?
I think I'll probably do both. So for people, my father was a very good sounding board and believer in me at all times. And I'm very grateful for that. And he didn't also always have the experience that to do what I'm doing per se, but his raw intuitive human connection and skills were profound. And I'm very grateful for that. That this love and the support of my wife makes all the difference. Having that foundational grounding and person that's there for you, no matter the ups, downs, made all the difference. And then finally, I've been reading this book once again. This is Be Here Now by Ram Dass, which, kind of really just reminds you to stay present and to not hold on to so much attachment or desire to anything, the outcome, the project. And it doesn't mean you can't have a lot of passion and intention and care, but it means having a light enough grip to let things unfold as they will, and to be playful with it and to be open to it. And, I find that like if you're present and you're open to what is happening while it's happening, usually things work out in a very positive way if you just kind of let go into that free natural flow per se.
Yeah. Really quickly, I had a tech startup back then when I was younger, probably 2011. And we were gifted, a bottle of champagne with 2 glasses. And when we sold the company and shut down, probably closed the office in 3 years later, we had that bottle unopened. So my business partner and I looked at each other and said, we got to celebrate the small wins every time we can. We need to enjoy the ride. So since then, I try to, with work and my family, I have 5-year-old twins, a boy and a girl.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and challenging as well. But
Sure.
It's amazing. I learned to be here now and to celebrate. So it's an amazing recommendation, and it's a new book for the list. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. And this has been epic. And I really appreciate you having me on. And I think what you're doing for the community and just giving people a back behind the curtain scene on how it all works and is fantastic. And your questions are fantastic as well.
Thank you. Before you go, please tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you and BRÄZ.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow BRÄZ online or visit our website at drinkbrez.com. And you can follow me at Aaron, Aaron J. Nosbisch. Nosbisch is Nosbisch. And on any socials, I'm pretty active on X and LinkedIn and Instagram. And so we're going to do our best to reduce human suffering and maximize human potential through this a better beverage. We think we're truly evolving drinking, and I hope you guys all get a chance to try it.
Amazing. Aaron, thanks again for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.